Alrighty, it's taken all day, but I'll finally get around to how to study the LDS Church history. I'm not going to be able to do it as elaborate as I had planned in my mind, because I was going to talk about something that I would need to insert a picture of, or a video clip or something like that, and that's going to delay it probably so that I don't end up getting it finished, like how Utah is killing off Utahns. That video I'm still got sitting in a pile, or in a file, waiting for the time to be able to work on getting that all assembled, because there's a whole ton of evidence and reporting about Utah government and the LDS Church killing off Utahns. So, all right. So, in studying church history, and this applies to everything you study in history, you can't just go in and say, well, I'm going to find out how white people or black people or a specific thing about history. That biases your research, because it narrows your focus. Now, I know in school the reports had to be narrowed and focused, but to do an actual research, you have to look at everything that's involved. And then, once you have everything that's involved, then you can narrow your focus for your school report. So in school, they sort of bypass the big picture, so sort of messes you guys up in your learning ability. All right, so in studying LDS Church history, most of you Mormons are going to go straight to Joseph Smith history. The church has come out with some other books, but the Joseph Smith history is the one where we'll start. So I'll be bringing it up. All right. Probably reprise. Joseph Smith history. Okay. Now, excerpts from the History of Joseph Smith the Prophet, History of the Church, Volume 1, Chapters 1 through 5. Now, as you know, Mormons, the Joseph Smith history volumes are no longer published and printed by the church. Isn't that interesting? Because the Joseph Smith papers have come out, but the church has not put the Joseph Smith papers in to replace the scriptures. So that's an interesting thing, isn't it? You'd think they'd want to have the more accurate account as canon, but they're not doing that. They're not putting in the Joseph Smith papers. Now, that could be that this is as the papers, so that there is no difference. Maybe. Only the rich will know, unless you can find the website and find it. Yeah, that's part of your research, is to find the most primary source available. If you can't find the primary source, find a secondary source that's closest to the primary source. So if you're wanting to know about an Egyptian document, the Book of the Dead, we'll say, coming forth by day, you don't go to Hugh Nibley. You look for the actual Book of the Dead in Egyptian. And even then, to render an understanding, a translation, an interpretation, there are older books to reference. Did you know that? Pyramid texts, for one example. Coffin texts, for another example. These refer what became the books of the coming forth by day. And so to understand the coming forth by day, you have to also know the older material, which is the source material for the coming forth by day. See? So always try to find the primary source. And so when history is involved, you need to find the words of the person you're researching, or documents during that person's time period, or other kinds of evidence. So, for example, was Joseph Smith arrested for looking into his hat with the 2 rocks? Yes. We know that it was in March of 1826, because the jail kept records, the court kept records. And so the court documents have in their logs, registries, or whatever you call them, they have the record, Joseph Smith Jr., glass looker, I think is the term they used. And then they put the fine that he had to pay. And it was like something cents or dollar or something. Can't remember the number anymore. I'd have to go back and look it up. And so, yeah, Joseph Smith was arrested, and he was charged for the same thing that the church is now saying that he made the Book of Mormon for, looking into a hat. So, since we're not really doing a full history of the church, we're just focusing on polygamy. So yes, I know we need to cover the broad spectrum. We're not going to do that here. And my intention to do the whole history of the church, the coming forth of the church, and the Book of Mormon is going to have to be on hold. But I have the books with the dates and the events that occurred in those dates. Okay, so all right. I was born, in verse 3 of Joseph Smith history, I was born in the year of our Lord. Oh, this is when the Lord was born. No. There's a manner of speech in the early 1800s. That's how they worded it. So you have to understand manner of speech when you're looking at older documents. And you have to understand definitions. Because, for example, in the Book of Mormon, Abinadi is scourged with faggots. Are you going to apply today's modern definition, which is a slang derogatory? No. You got to know how it was used in definition when it was written. So you don't want to make those kinds of mistakes. Otherwise, when Rebecca, I don't think it was Rachel, I think it was Rebecca, lit off a camel, you have to understand she wasn't smoking. So, and then there's the flying roll, and what was it, Isaiah or something? So, all right, so, oh yeah, I gotta put this in. Satan is abroad, and her name is Shirley. So make sure you understand the correct definitions of words so that you don't create your own new interpretation of Scripture. Oh, no, we're good. Okay, so, and on the 23rd day of December, in the town of Sharon, Windsor County, state of Vermont. So this is where I would have put in a picture to show you where Sharon is in Vermont, because when we're going over other things in his history, you need to know where those other places are in connection with Sharon, so that you get an idea of, oh, okay, so yeah, that is a plausible connection there. So, all right, so my father, Joseph Smith Sr. Okay, so now we know his father's name. Of course we know. Left the state of Vermont and moved to Palmyra. So we're led to believe that Joseph Smith was born in the state of Vermont, and that they moved from Vermont to Palmyra. See, they left some things out, didn't they? Because those of you who know the Smith family history know that they also went to New Hampshire and I believe Connecticut. So there was some moving around before they came back to Vermont and then moved to Palmyra. And he says it's around his 10th year or thereabouts. So he's written this in 1838. And so, yeah, in verse 2, the 8th year since the organization of said church, 1838. So this is, yeah, it's over a decade, and if 2 decades that he's referring to. So 20 years later, he's now trying to remember his early life. And yes, having done journals of my early life, or having done books on my early life, or records of my early life, I miss things on as I go through it, and I recall other things, so I write other versions that include that other information. So you can't fault him for missing things here and there, especially when he's 10 years old when he moves to Palmyra. However, I remember being under 10 years old. It was 8 years old. I remember moving from Michigan and traveling in a station wagon, and also with some U-Haul trucks across the United States to Southern California. So it seems unusual that he wouldn't remember moving to those other places, and it just may be that they weren't relevant to the discussion. So I don't know. There is ... here, which means that they took out information from the original Joseph Smith history and didn't include it in the canon of Scripture. And so that's another thing you got to be aware of, that there's missing information. And so what's that missing information? You got to go to the primary source, the Joseph Smith papers, to find out what it was. And before the Joseph Smith papers were released, the Joseph Smith history, volume chapters 1 to 5 or whatever. All right, so yeah, so what religion were they involved in? Were the Smith family involved in Vermont? Because we find out after naming, okay, yeah, in verse 5, he says there's an unusual excitement on the subject of religion. And This was after they moved to Manchester from Palmyra. He was saying that the Methodists started it, and then all others joined in. And then, yes, historians have found, no, the religious excitement didn't happen until a couple years after the timing of what he's saying here. And that's irrelevant, because again, it's like 15 years after now. So even I mess up on years with all this time gone by. And everybody was excited about religion. Methodist, Presbyterian, Baptist. Come on, let's get to your family. There we go. In verse 7, my father's family was proselytized to the Presbyterian faith, and 4 of them joined that church, namely my mother, Lucy, my brothers Hiram and Samuel Harrison, and my sister Sophronia. So what did your father do? See? Nothing about the father. It says father's family, but it says mother and brothers. So, yeah, I'm looking. I'm not finding. And then it says, in the process of time, my mind became somewhat partial to the Methodist sect. Sure enough, because after his first vision that he claims to have had, guess who's on the roll of the membership of the Methodists? Joseph Smith Jr. How do we know that? Because he was excommunicated shortly thereafter. And for what? Looking at rocks in a hat. They called it witchcraft. So, yeah, they didn't want witches in their religion. So Joseph Smith, apparently after the first vision, where Jesus tells him, don't join any of the churches, they're all wrong, he goes and joins the Methodists. And so this is not what we're talking about. This is not the focus. This is the broader picture. See, the reason why is we're trying to find the religion of the father, Joseph Smith Sr. So already you've got all these questions that should be flooding through your mind, all these avenues to research and find answers to. You see how complicated this has become? How in-depth this is? How vague the church's claim is? If you just believe whatever the church is telling you, you're missing out. Because you're getting fooled. Both ex-Mormons and critics, as well as Mormons. Because the church, in the gospel topic essays, makes the claim that Joseph Smith started polygamy. Joseph Smith started it. That's their claim. The church has been covering that up, but then finally relented and came out with the gospel topic essays, and now everybody assumes the church is now telling the truth after all this time. But we're going to do the research right here, right now, to show that the church is still lying to everybody. That he's innocent. He didn't do it. And so that's why we need to find the Father's religion, because I've already done this, so I know what I'm doing. So I'm able to skip ahead in our research. And so, all right. So yeah, it doesn't talk about which religion the father was in. It just says the mother was in, what was it, the Presbyterians? Yeah, Presbyterians. And he hints that he was interested in the Methodists, but he was excommunicated. And he instead puts in, but so great were the confusion and strife among the different denominations that it was impossible for a person young as I was, and so unacquainted with men and things, to come to any certain conclusion who was right and who was wrong. So, I'm not accusing Joseph Smith of being a deceiver. Because again, the big picture coming forth of the Book of Mormon, that plays a pivotal role. And we'll get to the Book of Mormon, what it says also, which you guys should already know. But nevertheless, notwithstanding, we'll have to go over it. So yeah, they don't talk at all about the religion of the Father. So what's the religion of the Father? Was he just a drunken old man who wasted his wife's dowry? Or was he a religious man? What is it? How do we know? Okay, so off to the internet. Da, 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 da. Alright, so we don't have access to the actual documents. So we're going to the closest thing we can come to the actual documents. And Wikipedia tries its best to make sure that people put in references that are accurate. And they have a whole system set up to monitor this and ask for people's help to make sure that things are accurate as well. But there's still lots of problems with Wikipedia. But nevertheless, for the purposes of this video, to hurry up with it as soon as possible because we're at 22 minutes. Okay, Joseph Smith Sr., September 14th, 1840. Oh, that's when he died. He was born July 12th, 1771. Wow. 1776. He was 5 years old. All right. Okay. He was a witness, one of the 8 witnesses to the Book of Mormon. He was the first patriarch, and then Hiram took over. All right. Yep. Okay. Good. They show that he was a Freemason in Ontario Lodge number 23 of Canandaigua, New York. They say citation is needed because this apparently is new, because when I was originally doing it, I didn't find it in here. I had to find it in somebody else's source and then verified it with the actual lodge itself that kept the records, and they have them online for people to see. And so, yeah, that's good that they finally put that in here. And so, yeah, you can actually go to the internet and find out the region of the Ontario Lodge, number 23 of Canandaigua, New York. And it's right next to the east of Palmyra. It's right in that region. And then Hiram also was a Freemason when they moved to Palmyra. His was further east. So all this can be verified. So this is important, guys, because Freemasonry, if you're doing a research on the coming forth of the Book of Mormon and to determine his Freemasonic understanding, because everybody assumes, oh, 1842. No, they moved to Palmyra. Smith Sr. becomes a Freemason. Hiram becomes a Freemason when they move to Palmyra. See how it's going here? It's information that is not revealed by the church, that is crucial to an understanding of the true history of the church. So Joseph Smith also would have had knowledge of Freemasonry before 1842. And also another instance, when you look at Hiram Smith's birth certificate, it's spelled different than what we're used to. It's because it's the Freemasonic spelling, which means that Joseph Smith Sr. knew about Freemasonry before he became a Freemason officially, which means back in Vermont. See how this works? All right. Topsfield, Massachusetts was where he was born. Asiel Smith and Mary Duty married Lucy Mack in Tunbridge, Vermont. Vermont. So you can then find where Tunbridge is, and compare it with how far away it is from Sharon. And then you can also find out that Lucy Mack's father owned the property in Sharon, and that's why they moved there. Okay. He tried to be a farmer, a teacher, a shopkeeper, but they don't show when. And they've got 5. It says look at 1. Are you kidding me? Where's 1? Okay, 1. Meetings of a conference, Evening and Morning Star. Okay, so that's not reliable. That's a church publication. See, that's where Wikipedia goes wrong. They have people who put in footnotes, and it's not primary source material. And here, number 4, none of which proved very successful. 4, and it's the Encyclopedia of Mormonism. So again, they're not going to primary sources. Unbelievable. Okay. And then they skip over to he moved his family to Palmyra. What? But here they go into extra detail. It was on the 7th of May, 1818 is when he became a Master Mason. Joseph Smith Sr. was a Master Mason in the Ontario Lodge number 23 of Canandaigua, New York. And they don't have the citation here. So you gotta go to the lodge notes. They have it there. That's the citation you put in. So, but yeah, Master Mason, just like Joseph Smith in 1843. He became a Master Mason. And that's the 3rd degree. It goes up. 1st degree is the base level. And 32 is the highest level you can obtain. And you've probably heard of 33 degree Mason. That's just an honorary title. That those who are 30 to 32 can be requested to become. But you have to be at least 30 in order to get that honorary title. And it's supposed to take time. That's why people in the Warsaw Lodge were furious when they heard that their Grand Master had elevated Joseph Smith to a Master Mason on the next day after putting him in the beginning stages, because they weren't elevated that quickly. Why should he? All right. Smith and his sons were involved in a number of treasure digging excavations in the 1820s. What? Smith Sr.? I thought it was just Joseph, according to the church's record. So how was Smith Sr. into treasure digging? We'll get to that. They don't cover it here, do they? They don't. Oh my goodness. They took it out. So yeah, they've changed this to remove the new Israelites. Okay. Wow. Yeah, so yeah, somebody put in that he was a Freemason, back in 1818, but took out that he was a part of the New Israelites. Naughty, naughty. Okay, so that's what I was wanting to show to you, is that he had been involved with the New Israelites in Vermont. That was the religion he was a part of. So it's a good thing I'm doing this, isn't it? The New Israelites. Alrighty. Alright, the New Israelites were a radical sect. You can't put adjectives, guys. The editors should have caught that and said, no, we can't have that. Edit it out. It's a religious sect founded by Nathaniel Wood in Vermont. And they have, in Middletown. So Middletown is west of Sharon, Vermont. And so you can see the distance and that on Google Maps. And he founded it in the 1790s. And so, let's see, when was... Okay, so, let's see, early life. Was born 1796. He married Lucy Mack. And they don't show it. They're missing out information here. Okay, so 1796 he gets married, and they then move into Sharon, Vermont, into the family home to take care of it. We need lots of corrections here in Wikipedia. All right. So, yes, in the 1790s. So he comes to Vermont in the 1790s, starts the church, and here comes Smith Sr. And because I don't think they're gonna. I think they probably took out Smith Sr. out of all this. Oh, possible connection to Mormonism. Good. They still have it in this one. All right. Members of the New Israelites included Joseph Smith Sr., the father of the Mormon prophet, and William Cowdery. Oliver Cowdery. Are you familiar with the passage in the Doctrine and Covenants? Oliver Cowdery Rod of Aaron. There's 14 things to look up. That's most likely the last one. Hebrews? What? So they called it something else then, is what they did. Rod. Oliver. There's 126. Okay. 19. Smite you with the rod of my mouth. It's 40 rods long. So it's not rod, that's the term. So they changed the rod to something else. Okay. So this is where I need a physical book so that I can is it Stick of Aaron? I might have to pause until I find it. Stick Aaron. Oh, not it. But there were only 16 sticks. So 26 sticks. Okay. 27. Stick of Ephraim. Alright. Okay, I'm going to have to pause until I find it. Okay, I found it. It's Doctrine and Covenants, section 8, verse 3. Verse 7. Behold, there is no other power save the power of God that can cause this gift of Aaron to be with you. So verse 6. Now this is not all thy gift. He's referring to translation. For you have another gift, which is the gift of Aaron. And they've changed it to gift. It was rod. Go back in the Book of Commandments. Go back to the primary source document. It was rod of Aaron. And now we can go back to the new Israelites. Okay. Okay. Nathaniel Wood, Middletown, Vermont, to the west of Sharon, Vermont. And he was originally a Congregationalist. Yes, Congregationalist. Mormons or ex-Mormons and critics of the Mormon Church, those groups, not Mormons, would know about the Congregationalists because there was this book titled The View of the Hebrews. Yes, that's right. This is where this all comes into play. The preacher who took over after Nathaniel Wood got chased out of town was the Congregationalist preacher taking over for the original Congregationalist. So yes, Smith Sr. was a Congregationalist, and then Nathaniel Wood came into town, and Smith joined with him. And then after he got chased out of town, Smith Sr. went back to Congregationalist, and all the Cowdreys also. Now, who are the Cowdreys? Lucy Mack's cousin. So they're family. And Oliver Cowdery is the son of William Cowdery. And Oliver Cowdery has this rod of Aaron gift, which has been manipulated by the church to cover it up and call it a gift of Aaron. Makes it difficult to find when you change the word. Alright, so and it talks about some of their religious beliefs and practices. They believe that as it says, New Israelites, they believe they were direct, literal descendants from the 10 lost tribes of Israel. And guess what they practiced? It's a thing they called spiritual wifery. Yes, but wait. There is no evidence that Smith Sr. took on other spiritual wives. None. And so you gotta have this in context. Yes, it could be damaging evidence against Joseph Smith not starting polygamy, because his father was in a religion that had it and practiced it. So this could be bad news, and the church may be right after all. They may not be lying about the lie of the lie. So yeah, oh man, wow, okay. And they believed the Hebrew was an angelic tongue. Hebrew, not Egyptian. Where does the Egyptian part come in? Oh yeah, Freemasonry. And they practiced divination. Dun 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 dun! The rod of Aaron. And okay, so divination is actually, it's revelation. If there was the Exodus by Christian Bale, is that the right guy? He was Batman, and he did an Exodus version rather than the Ten Commandments of Yul Brynner and that other famous guy. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. And in that one, they show divination by cutting open an animal, looking at the innards, and making a guess. Yeah, that was divination. Yay. They were able to fool people, so I guess it works. It doesn't. I can tell you all about divination and how it works in public, so don't worry. And so, okay. So the dowsing, that's the rod of Aaron. Divination and Hebrew and spiritual wifery were all a part of this new religion. And then along came Justice Winchell. They are saying probably Justice Winchell. They don't know the first name. But again, they're quoting Quinn rather than a primary source document. All right, so early in the summer of 1800, when was Joseph Smith born? 1805. This was before Joseph. And when was Hiram? Wasn't he 1801? So right after this, Hiram is born. And it's Justice Winchell who came in and taught them how to use rods to look for buried treasure. Dowsing. There it is. There's the connection with Joseph Smith Sr. teaching his son, Joseph Smith Jr., how to look for buried treasure. That's the connection right there. It's the father teaching the son. And likewise with Oliver Cowdery. His father was in this organization, knew of dowsing, taught it to his son. And then Joseph Smith puts in the Doctrine and Covenants, hey, you've got this gift of dowsing. That's what it is. Gift of Aaron is the dowsing gift. Looking for buried treasure. So there you go. This is the polygamy part. That's what we're focused on. So as much as I want to go over this other stuff, because there's some really cool stuff. Because like Nathaniel gets this revelation that the end of the world is going to happen. So he gathers his group together at the church, and the town in that middle town, they're like, we're calling the militia. The militia comes in to break them up. That's awesome, man. History is awesome. And so I don't know why the church is leaving this out. This is good stuff. Oh, man. And so, yeah, they were also involved in counterfeiting. Okay. All right. So, yeah, using the divining rod for treasure hunting. But the polygamy part is what I wanted to bring up. So, polygamy was known to Joseph Smith Sr. Because on January 14th, 1802, that was the day of the apocalypse. 14th. Wouldn't that be awesome if that's the date of the apocalypse of today's LDS Church? I've been telling you guys, oh, this would be awesome. Oh, man. The Mountain Meadows Massacre. What day was that? 9/11. This would be awesome. Because my birthday. It's shared on the day that Thomas B. Marsh was excommunicated by Brigham Young. This is awesome. This would be awesome. You guys could be here noticing a groundbreaking revelation. This is awesome. So watch for it. When is the 14th? Let's see. Saturday is the 12th. Sunday is the 13th. Monday. This would be awesome. Oh, and 1802. Switch it around. 2018. Well, it's 19, so oh well. Oh man. I'm getting all excited now. I want to wait and see what's going to happen on Monday. Because like I told you guys, Hinckley died the 27th of January. On the 20th, which was 24 days. So yeah, 24 days later, on the 20th of February, was a total lunar eclipse. Then Monson dies on the 2nd of January, and on the 31st, 29 days later, a total lunar eclipse. Guess what we've got this year? A super blood wolf moon. This would be awesome. Ah, history is awesome. Okay, man, I'm all excited now. I want to stop and go wait until Monday. And so, February, guys, or polygamy. That's what we're focusing on. Okay, so we know that it's known in the family. We know it. Okay. Joseph Smith and polygamy. Oh, man. Awesome. Okay, so I think it's Joseph, it must be that site then, I guess. List of Joseph Smith's wives, Wikipedia. Origin of Latter-day Saint polygamy. Oh, that's what I wanted. Alright. So again, Wikipedia is incorrect. People are putting false information here. And so you've got to be able to understand how to identify it, where to look for to fill in the gaps that are missing, and the sources to verify and all that. Whew, man. Oh, I'm excited for Monday. Alright, so polygamy, or plural marriage in the Church of Jesus Christ, probably originated with the founder of Mormonism, Joseph Smith. Do you see? Probably. You don't put probably. If you don't know, you don't put it in. And they went and put it in as probably, because the church has said, yeah, okay, Joseph Smith started it. But, like I showed you, we know Joseph Smith Sr. was aware of it, and we're not sure if he practiced it. There's no evidence that he did. Okay, so let's see if we can find. Okay. See here in the final sentence of the paragraph, in 1852, Joseph Smith died in 1844. This is 8 years later. Leaders of the Utah-based LDS Church acknowledged it was Utah territory, not Utah state. You need to know your history here too. So again, these Wikipedia acknowledged that Smith taught and practiced polygamy. Hearsay. Are you familiar with hearsay? It's not legitimate. It's thrown out in a court of law. And so, yes, it should not be accepted in history research either. It's a later, lower credibility account. It's not a primary source document that we can believe in. People's hearsay is a lower priority. We need to be aware of it, but if other things that are higher priority supersede it and correct it or change it, then we trust those first. Whew. 14th. Awesome. All right, so, okay. And then also my birthday is on the Relief Society organization as well. So there's two things of historical significance in the LDS Church that apply to my birthday. Do you know what applies to the church on your birthday? Oh man, this is awesome. Okay. Alright. Yeah. Guess what? Emma Smith. Emma Smith and her reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is now the Community of Christ because they gave up the Book of Mormon, challenged the evidence and taught that Joseph Smith had opposed polygamy. So here we have the first instance of a conflict. Somebody's saying, hey, no, he didn't practice it, and others are saying he did. Joseph Smith, or Emma Smith, was his wife, and she said he did not. Now, she could be saying this because she doesn't want any other woman claiming that Joseph Smith had her kid. How can we verify if other women had his baby? Because there were a number of women who claimed, yeah, this baby is Joseph Smith's. Even though my husband is mad at me, it's Joseph Smith's baby. Give me money. See? When women do that, when they want support, isn't it interesting how they'll claim a certain man as the baby's daddy? Especially when they want money or to be taken care of, or they want something, even if it's just fame and recognition, or even if it's to destroy the reputation of somebody who snubbed them. That has to be taken into consideration, because David Whitmer, he's the one that accuses Joseph Smith of having sex with his 14-year-old housekeeper. But it was after he got booted out by the Danites threatening his life. Yeah. So all this needs to come into play. You need to know all the factors that are involved. You know, just because David Whitmer says it does not mean it's true, because it's just his word. It's not documented evidence. It's not baby DNA evidence. DNA. Recognize that? DNA has now been invented, DNA research testing, and sure enough, none of the claims confirm that Joseph Smith is the father. Only the original fathers are the baby daddies. So again, there's further evidence that Joseph Smith was being set up to take the fall for starting polygamy. That's why they put probably here. It's because there's no evidence. And I'm looking at almost an hour here. You guys still here with me? You interested in this? So, all right. So, introduced plural marriage after his death. Times and seasons. No. Whitmer, no. Now, come on, Journal of Discourses. His actual talk when he said, I am now starting polygamy. It was like, it wasn't 1847, was it? was like 18, excuse me, I think 1852. Well, that could be just when the leaders started acknowledging it, is when they tried to bring it out. All right. So again, you got to check these things. When was it documented as occurring? And you can go to Brigham Young's own speeches in the Journal of Discourses, which the church will not publish anymore. Okay. So yeah, we're at an hour. So as much fun as it is, I hope you guys got an understanding of how to do research. And we have more that I wanted to get to, but hadn't. So the Book of Mormon. What does the Book of Mormon preach about polygamy? There's at least two sources that come to my mind immediately. Jacob, talking about his father Lehi, saying, one man, one woman. And then throws in a little thing about, unless circumstances require otherwise. But one man, one woman. And then, under King Noah, who took over from his father Zeniff, King Noah changed the religion, put in new priests, changed the laws, changed the religion, and he was wicked, as they call it. And part of the reason why he was wicked is that they say he had multiple wives and concubines. Ta-da! Again, the Book of Mormon preaches out against polygamy. And so what about the section 132 in the Doctrine and Covenants then? Well, that's when you got to look in to the original documents of the Doctrine and Covenants. When was it put in? Was it put in the Book of Commandments? Because, let's see, Doctrine and Covenants. Because let's see, section 132. Okay, see, section 132 claims to be on July 12th, 1843. Just a year before Joseph Smith was murdered. Are we sure about that? Well, when was it put in? Because the church is claiming, oh, from historical records and documents involved, it's been known by the prophet since 1831. Well, there was a Book of Commandments that came out in 1833. And then in 1835 came the first Doctrine and Covenants, which was the Book of Commandments with some other stuff. Okay, so Wikipedia is what we want. All right, so in 1844, after Joseph Smith died, a second edition of the Doctrine and Covenants, which was 1835, came into pass. And it lists 103, 105, 112, 119, 124, 127, 128, 135. That's when those were added. And I think 128 and or at least 135, that's the Brigham Young giving the order to head west and killing the saints. However, in 1876, again, what's the timing of this? What's going around in the history of the church around this time? When does Brigham Young, when does he die? Because he took over after Joseph, right? He's the true and living prophet of God as the successor, right? 1876 is the year before he dies. Guess what's added to the Doctrine and Covenants just before Brigham Young dies? Section 85 is a key one, but section 132 gets added. And you can verify Wikipedia. You can go online and find the original versions, the Book of Commandments of 1833, the Doctrine and Covenants of 1835. And okay, Chris Hayes is starting, so I need to wrap this up. He's learning. He's trying to role model after Rachel, but he's got some bad habits of Chris Matthews. So he's learning. And hopefully Chris Matthews will retire soon so that he can pattern after Rachel. All right, so yeah, 1832. So you can go online, find each of these, and verify. Because in the 1835 edition, and I can't go to it now because of the time and all that stuff, but you can do it. One man, one woman, 1835. The church is still throwing him under the bus, saying, oh, he knew about it in 1831. And yeah. You have the Book of Mormon against it several times. You have the Doctrine and Covenants in 1835 against it. And then you have Joseph Smith preaching against it, as Emma is a witness to. Because apparently she was approached to allow multiple wives for Joseph. Yet she's claiming, no, that didn't, no. Joseph Smith didn't do it. Who are we going to believe? People decades later who said, oh yeah, we approached Emma and we talked to her about it. She was upset and didn't want it. But we talked to her. She knew what was going on. Oh, because she says no. And then now we have DNA evidence that no, Joseph Smith was not. He was not doing it. And so that's how you do your research on church history and verify who's right, who's wrong. You can know. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate that I couldn't go into deeper detail for you. But hey, well, I am going to be overjoyed if something happens on Monday. I'll be crying all day. It'll just be awesome. I'm crying now. Oh man, can you believe that? That's a week before. Oh man. Whew. Okay, so I gotta go. Air traffic. Our whole country's falling to pot, people. Oh man. And so yeah, you can do a research on the Book of Mormon as to if the Book of Mormon is as it says that it is, or if it's something else, which I'm claiming it is, having to do with what's going on right now. Gadiant and robbers have taken over the government, and they're destroying it. A king has been placed on the throne of the United States. Why can't Mormons see this? All right. 14th. Awesome. Woof. Man. And you heard it here first. And it's going to take a couple hours before you guys get it, but it's 6:05 right now. And so it was earlier, 15, 30 minutes ago. Oh, man.